Educating Simon is the story of a super-intelligent, arrogant, abrasive gay teenager and how he transforms into a super-intelligent, arrogant, but much less abrasive gay teen after a forced move from London to Boston. He'll be faced with several challenges: the loss of his beloved cat, being removed from the London academy he believes he needs to prepare him for acceptance into Oxford University, dealing with his new stepfather's brilliant autistic daughter, and having to coach a young boy who turns out to be a trans girl for the last competitions leading to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Along the way, he meets two young men from whom he learns more about himself than about them, and he benefits from the advice of a slightly older gay man, Ned Salazar. The first excerpt is from the beginning of the book. Bright blue, cream, bright red, lilac, lilac. 3. I'm home, for now. And whilst I finish typing the notes from my mobile into my laptop, I can see that they look pretty pathetic on that full screen. Not much there. Rather like my life. Didn't used to be that way. I'm fairly certain I remember a time when life was good, when my mom and dad and my cat and I were a family, when I was doing really well at Swithin Academy. In fact, I was doing so well that Dad once told me, "Not too early to be setting your cap at Oxford, Simon. Oxford is blue, you know, blue for wide open skies." To which I replied, tongue-in-cheek, because this was kind of a running joke with us, "It's terracotta, but that's fine because that's an earth color, and I'll need a good foundation." I think I was maybe 14 when he said that, a couple of years ago now, and a few months before he died. Sorry, can't really talk about that. Maybe I can talk about the good parts. There were a lot of them between my father and me. For one thing, I have Tinkerbell because of him. When I was 13, I said I wanted a pet, and Mum suggested a corgi, probably because she likes dogs better than she likes cats. But Dad smiled at me and shook his head. He knew. And he took me to pick out a kitten, a British Shorthair with thick plush fur, a round, wise head, and big eyes that miss nothing. She's a sweet, intelligent cat. I named her Tinkerbell. My dad and I used to go to church together. Mum was never that interested, but Dad and I would go almost every week, either to our usual, St. Cyprian's, or if we wanted something special and planned ahead, we'd go into town to Westminster or St. Paul's. Dad used to tease me that if he'd gone into the priesthood as he'd planned, I wouldn't be around. As an Anglican priest, he could still marry, of course, but my mother wouldn't have married him. One of the best things about being with my father was this condition we share. I almost certainly got it from him, along with my red hair. The special condition is synesthesia. Most people don't even know what it is, and people who have it don't all experience it the same. My dad and I see letters as having colors. Each letter always has the same color, but my terracotta O was blue to my dad. His sister, my Aunt Philippa, sees colors when she hears music. I don't much like Aunt Philippa, but I kind of wish I could see colors with music too. I wouldn't give up being a synesthete for anything. I'm actually very smart, IQ of 163, and the vocabulary of an intelligent adult twice my age. But when I was younger, what impressed the other kids in school was that I could spell anything I'd seen at least once. The whole word takes on the color of the first letter, really, but the other letters retain some of their own color too. In the case of Oxford, with 2 terracottas, a dove-grey X, a pale green F, a bright red R, and a dark brown D, the other letters don't do much to modify the first letter, but take another word and the effect is different. England, for example, is lilac, coral, fuchsia, bright orange, pale yellow, coral, dark brown. The whole word takes on a lilac tint, but I can still see the orange and yellow and brown. If you changed one of the letters, say bright blue for T instead of brown for D, I'd know it was wrong right away, and my fabulous memory would tell me why. I can hear you say, "So what? If I saw England spelled England, I'd know it was wrong right away too." But consider this. Would you know immediately that this version of Neufchâtel is misspelled and why? Or Caerphilly? Caerphilly. Don't get me started. Don't talk to me about anything having to do with Wales. Pale green, terracotta, pale pink, bright red. 4. Simon, blood red, bright yellow, brick red, terracotta, coral. Blood red overall. I think maybe that's why slitting my wrist would have been my method of choice. True confession time. That was not a typo to say would have been. I didn't actually do it. I was sitting on the closed toilet seat contemplating how warm the water should be if I turned it on, and I was staring at the razor blade I held between the thumb and forefingers of both hands. I stared and stared until my vision got a little blurry and I began to feel faint. I slid to the floor and leaned against the wall for, maybe 10 minutes. And then I set the blade down. To be honest, I don't know why I didn't go through with it. I do remember thinking that there would always be razor blades. I'd sat there giving myself a little time, drawing a mental picture. I remember thinking that there would be rather a lot of blood. Red, bright red blood. The bathwater would be full of it, swirling in beautiful shapes that I expected would be the last thing I would see. I pictured my mother finding me there. She'd scream, perhaps call my name a few times, maybe even try to lift me out of the water, and then she'd phone for help. After that, my story takes a split. One line ends up with me, dead, buried in the soil of the land I refused to leave, despite my mother's plans. The other sends me to hospital. Imagine my consternation when I wake up there, head pounding, totally parched, and heavy white packs on both wrists. I think I would scream. I know I would want to. I'm not one of those people who would send out a cry for help. How I hate that expression. It would have been real, that suicide, if I'd done it. And I suppose you'll want to know why I was even poised to do it, whether I wrote a note, whether I thought it would hurt anyone when they found out. If I didn't feel loved, if life wasn't worth it, if it was because I'm gay. Well, I didn't write a note. For one thing, what would it say? Mom, I can't believe you've done this to me. Dad would never have done anything like this if it had been you who died. For another, not everyone is capable of appreciating how well I write. The last thing I would do is leave my final words to be judged, picked apart, criticized after I'm gone by people who wouldn't know good writing if it fell from the sky, with or without colors. And it wasn't because I'm gay. I have no problem with that, thank you very much, even though I haven't told Mum yet. So what did she do that was so horrid, you ask? Here's what she did. She fell in love with a man, an architect from Boston, Massachusetts. That's bad enough. He was here in the UK to dig up, not really, couldn't resist, some Welsh ancestors in, guess where? Caerphilly. So he's not only from Boston, but he's also Welsh. Worse still. And Mum has married him. Severe punishment indicated for this transgression. And she's making me move with her, with them, to Boston.